Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of FitRx. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Dennis. I'm joined today with two very special guests, a married couple, Danny and Maura Vega, and they are known as the Fat Fueled Family. They are bloggers, podcasters, YouTubers who are dedicated to leading a movement that will empower families to eat better, move more, and grow closer. So, Danny, Maura, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having
Thanks for
us.
having us.
All right.
We're excited.
So, yeah. So, tell me first, I just tell me about you guys. Okay. Just tell the listeners about y'all, how you got into this space, and just kind of how you got into becoming known as the Fat Fueled Family.
You want to take it?
Yeah, sure. I'll do it. I love how you. We're always
Don't
like,
be so. Try to give them a Cliff's notes.
yeah. So, I was a lifelong athlete, played college football, was always obsessed with nutrition and performance, and I got my master's at UF in physiology, but it was the first non-research based master's. It was actually called a master's in human performance, which was awesome. And I went on to be the head strength coach for VCU basketball in Virginia, and did that for a few years, and then wasn't making much money and decided to chase money. And like you, I went into a field where after several years realized that it was probably not the best thing. I did pharmaceutical sales for like 3 years, and then I got into medical device, and I did that for the remainder of about a decade, and worked in women's health. And in 2016, both of us, we had found the paleo diet in like 2011, after she had our first, and we felt great. And then I got into powerlifting, and we kind of do everything together. So we dabbled with If It Fits Your Macros, and we brought the carbs back in, and she knew it was wrong from the beginning. She felt wrong. And then we found the ketogenic diet in 2016, and it kind of reignited our passion for nutrition and for all of these things. And then I started to host a podcast called The Ketogenic Athlete, and just my obsession grew. I read like crazy, and Maura was doing it with me. Then we brought the kids in. The kids were kind of had a great foundation with paleo, and then we got a little bit lazy with them for a few years there. A few Happy Meals here and there, and then we just realized that they were starting to have symptoms of things like the eczema, nosebleeds, seasonal allergies, behavioral issues. And so in 2017, we brought them on board, and it's just we've grown a platform because we share a lot of what we do with our kids, and we try to show how we incorporate all these things like the education, all these things. I think they work well together, and that's why we show them all. And we started our podcast in 2018, and here we are now.
It's been a wild ride.
Very cool. Okay.
And you, my love, tell them about
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Danny kind of touched on how we got started and everything. I was a dancer all my life, so ballet and all of that. So I didn't really have the best. I was always very health conscious, but it was mostly weight conscious.
Hey, Maura.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I can go back and
Oh,
edit
you're
all this,
fine.
but I cannot
You're fine.
hear you very well. I hear him
It's okay,
great, but
Mike.
I cannot hear you very well.
Oh,
Is this in? Oh, do you hear that better?
Much better.
Okay, it's an
oh,
in.
sorry. I was when I checked earlier, it was good.
Okay, I'll just start. You want me to just start that whole section?
Please, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Danny kind of dabbled into how we got to into our nutrition journey after I had the kids. But growing up, I was a dancer my whole life, so ballet, um, and so I didn't have a really healthy relationship with food, but I was very health conscious my whole life. And by health at the time, I thought that being skinny meant you're healthy. So I was chasing every fad diet. I couldn't ever keep the weight off. So there was just a very unhealthy relationship with food in general, a lot of restriction. And I was plant based at one point, which I felt terrible, to be honest. Now looking back, I don't even know how I did it. But when I got pregnant, it's so interesting how your body sends you very strong signals that when I got pregnant with my first, I was plant-based at the time. I would still eat fish and eggs, but my body, remember, like I
She wanted a
craved, I
steak.
wanted a steak. I don't even know. I was like, I haven't wanted a steak in years, and I just wanted a steak. So I went ahead, I listened to my body, and then I never really went back. But yeah, it's been a journey. We started to share our journey. When we went keto from, Danny talked about how we had that really strong foundation with paleo, which is, I'm so thankful for that because my boys they're set up and we had something to kind of compare to once they started having symptoms. We're like, wait, this is a new thing. Who has these symptoms? But me at the time, after I had my youngest, Dean, and we moved to Tampa, I came down with postpartum depression. So I was put on antidepressants, Zoloft, which, I mean, it's like a band-aid. I don't know. It kind of makes you kind of numb. It didn't make me feel happy or anything. And then they kept increasing my dose, but there was some side effects associated. So I kind of just decided to just stay at a certain dose for a while. But I knew that the only way that I was going to be, able to get off of those antidepressants was with some kind of high fat diet because I knew how good I felt at the time when I was paleo. And I definitely do not ever suggest doing this on your own because I did do it on my own. I'm a very stubborn person. And weaning yourself off of antidepressants needs to be done under medical supervision because it was very scary for me at a certain point. So, but yeah, I mean, we went keto and after like a few weeks to a month, I started just feeling like myself. I didn't have so much brain fog. No, like obsessing about food all day. I felt full, satiated. I felt like I could go about my day. And yeah, it's just been a journey there, just sharing that with others, and we've been able to build this platform now. So
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Y'all are obviously doing something right. Our listeners can't see you. I can see you, but you guys look very fit. I mean, Danny's jacked, and Maura. I don't usually describe women as jacked. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but you look
yeah, I don't mind it.
you look very fit. So you guys are
Thank you.
obviously doing something right. And I want to ask about your fitness routines here in a little bit. But so my listeners are very aware of low carb keto. I've talked a lot about that. What's different with you guys and what I haven't talked about is including the whole family in that. And so I want to spend a little bit of time on that. So tell me, how old are your
For sure.
kids?
We have two boys. They are 10 and 6.
Okay. And so it's no surprise to most people, most kids eat like crap.
Yeah, they do.
So my wife and I are both physicians, and we're both, very into health. My wife is very strict keto. I'm not as strict, but I do pretty good. I'm pretty low carb, and I'm a pretty fit guy.
Right.
We have a 14-year-old who's getting better. They've heard all the information. We don't force it upon him,
Right.
but he is getting better. We have a 9-year-old who's just eats terrible. So I'm really anxious to hear how you guys do that with your kids. I mean, how you brought them along to buy into this and how you get them to eat like this, because I mean, as you know, there's junk food everywhere. I mean, just in the schools,
It's everywhere.
if you go to church, they go to a friend's house, I mean, it's just full of
Everywhere,
junk food.
yeah.
So yeah, so how did you get them involved, and just kind of how what are some of the things that they eat?
So the way that we kind of got them on board, it led with our oldest, and again, so important that they had the solid foundation. Especially with my first, I was real like lunatic mom. Like I was like, do not feed my kid this, do not feed my child this, to like grandma and we were very strict. And he was just such a great eater. He's not picky at all, so he'll eat anything. But my second one is a little more picky, and so we do have a little bit more of a struggle with him finding foods for him. But it all started out with those symptoms. Desmond at the time was, how old is he? Maybe like 7. Yeah, 6 or 7.
Yeah, 6
And
or
again,
7.
he was having really bad environmental allergies, and he gets horrible nosebleeds. Like, you know how these nosebleeds can get with these kids. Like, it's 30 minutes. It looks like a bloody massacre. It's horrible. And for him, it was horrible too. Like, he didn't like to have to stop playing and with the nosebleeds. And so he's always watching us, and we're true believers in modeling the behavior. So the fact that you guys are doing that is the most important thing, is that you guys are modeling that behavior. Because even if the kids stray, our goal is that, don't get me wrong, my kids can go, straight for the hot and ready sign after they leave my house if they want. And we do let them, at birthday parties, and if they want to buy stuff with their own money, or even if they're just randomly one day they want to eat something, like we don't, it's a very fine line, because we don't want to create eating disorders because in this in the for in the sake of, like, for in the name of being healthy. So we let them do that, but my goal is that when they do leave my house, if they ever do start to feel sick, or they get, something happens with their health, anything, that they're not gonna turn to, they're gonna, their mindset is gonna be, first, what can I switch? There must be something in my diet or my lifestyle before just going to the band-aid, right? Like the prescriptions, or just putting a band-aid on the problem. Like, I want my kids to just leave with that lesson. So, but it is a fine line, it is harder the older they get, for sure. So the fact that yours are, you have teenagers, we can't control them. Look, just yesterday my son wanted to go, he has his own money from his birthday, and he bought him and his brother a bunch of Twinkies, and I'm like, go, like, they wanted to eat Twinkies. I'm like, okay, go eat Twinkies. And then, because they eat well most of the time, and my kids are homeschooled, so this is another thing, we are a little bit more in control in that sense, where they're eating at home a lot. We don't really ever eat out. But then they feel bad, they feel those effects a lot of the times, because since they are healthy, they don't realize how lucky they are that they feel good all day. So even after those Twinkies, I don't know, one of them had a stomach ache. Someone
Yeah.
was like, I have a stomach ache. I'm
But
like, why
that's
do you think
like,
you have a
that's a
stomach ache?
novelty, it's like a
Yeah.
novelty because they've only had, that was the second time
Yeah,
they've
they've
ever
never
had
eaten
it.
stuff like that.
Wow.
But yeah, why don't you talk about, like, some of the stuff they eat? Because
Yeah, well, before that, I just want to say, if you're a parent and you're, a lot of parents have this aha moment, like, oh my gosh, I'm healthy, but wait a second, my kids are eating like crap, like, and then they got that moment where they're like, I gotta bring my kids on board. The first thing that I would do is we talk about having conversations with your children about, like, look, I've I've had like a change in paradigm. I used to think that such and such was food, and then I found out that it's not food. It's food. It's a food-like substance, but it's not really food. And so I'm not going to eat that anymore. And I found out there's a reason why I have these aches and pains. There's a reason why I might be groggy, and I have a little bit of extra tire. And all those things. And so I'm not gonna do that anymore. If you want to do this with me, awesome. If not, just, you have questions, ask me, and have that conversation. And then from there, it's got to also be like, look, because I've made this decision, I'm no longer going to bring anything into my house that's not food. So,
right.
that's where you immediately, because one of the things we hear a lot, especially with young children, is all he wants to eat is mac and cheese. All they want to eat is chicken nuggets.
I'm
I'm
like, who
like,
bought it?
who bought the chicken nuggets? Like, don't buy
Especially
them.
like the little ones. Yeah.
Yeah, like, especially the little ones. Do not buy them. Do not contribute your financial, because for us it's a moral issue too. Like, it's like, I'm not going to support this unethical company that is feeding my children these foods that are just driving these cravings, and they're nutritionally devoid. And so, the first thing has to be, get rid of everything, donate it if you want to, and then if they want to buy their own stuff, they can buy their own stuff with their money, but I'm not going to contribute to it. As far as what they eat on a daily basis, we've been buying a lot of duck eggs from my local farmer lately. So, if before duck eggs, it was just regular eggs, but and we buy goose eggs and stuff, and my oldest also has a thing with quail eggs. I think it's another novelty
Yeah.
thing.
It's just that they're like that.
So they always have eggs in the morning, and
Yeah, eggs and bacon every morning, pretty
bacon, pretty
much.
much bacon every day. The other thing is, the oldest now, he can skateboard to Walmart. He's been, just any chance that he gets, like, do you guys need anything? I want to
It's
go
like
to
right around
Walmart.
the
And so
corner.
he went this morning to go get some bacon. Um, Involving the children in the cooking, that's one thing we did with our oldest when he was very small. And, he knew how to cook himself breakfast when he was like 5 or 6. And so that was important. Lunch is kind of like the hardest meal of the day.
Yeah.
We have our next door neighbor who is Puerto Rican, and she makes really good Puerto Rican food. So they'll usually have like a nice home cooked meal. There will probably be some rice in that, or some yuca, or some starches.
But look at how they left. They leave most of it
Yeah, they're
anyways.
so adapted to
Yeah, they'll
because
leave
they know
most of it.
that the food, we always say, like, eat your food first, and we say, like meat is the food, because that's the most important thing. Everything else is kind of like, decoration, and novelty and all that. And so they eat most of their meat, and then they'll leave the rice and gandules. And then for dinner, Like tonight, I'm making steak and burgers, and I think they have leftover stuffed chicken. But they do a lot of chicken, avocado. They eat paleo slash keto.
Yeah, they're so active too because they're home all day. So like they'll have some more carbs. These kids are
I don't even know if they
super.
get to 100 though, ever.
We offer it, so but they'll do things like like fruit. They'll have some fruit. They'll have yogurt and what else will they have? Like sweet potatoes, sweet potato
Yeah.
fries, stuff like that. We make it fun for them. I think it's important to kind of get them involved and show them like you can still enjoy food and have fun things without it being, over the top. So we, just gluten free. If they want mac and cheese one day, I'll get them some gluten free mac and cheese or something. I
Yeah.
just kind of draw the line on certain things. I'm like, well, that's just okay, gluten free.
Yeah,
We know
and
the
that's a treat.
yeah, we know the foods that cause reactions. So
And I didn't tell you this, but at Publix last week, that's one of our supermarket, and we were buying something real quick before jujitsu, and I roll up there and I'm like, the answer's no, because
well, they
they
just ask in
always
general.
ask when they
Kids
get to
are.
and the answer's always no, but they're going to continue to ask, and I don't
Yeah,
blame them. These kids they're smart. Maybe
they're
eventually they break
dedicated.
us, but the dad that was standing there, me was like, that's good parenting right there. You didn't even let him ask the question. It's like you have to be like, we are loving to our children. We give them experiences and awesome food, but it's not junk food,
Yeah.
and so there's certain areas where you really do have to put your foot down, because we have this with the parenting side of it. We have this philosophy of like trying to maintain as much autonomy as possible and not forcing things upon them. But then at the same time, they don't know what they don't know. And there's
Yeah.
certain things that we have to put these guardrails up and kind of lead them in the right direction. So we do that with food. And I'm a little bit worse than she is. She's, sometimes I'll be
Danny's
like,
strict.
yeah, I can be.
I'm like, come on, man, let them have a whatever.
I know. The thing
Especially
is,
when we're out and about. Like, I never want them to feel. I don't want them to feel left out or anything. Like,
yeah,
they
when
eat
we're
so
with other
well.
kids,
To me,
yeah,
it's a drop in the bucket if they have anything
Yeah.
yeah,
randomly.
Sounds like they're doing better than 99% of the
Yeah,
kids out there.
exactly.
So
yeah.
I'm like, come on, compared to
yeah.
most kids, like
We have
we're all on it.
non-negotiables, which makes it really easy because it's like, it's not so much the sugar that bothers me, but like if there's food dyes, if there's wheat, and if there's vegetable oils, those three are non-negotiables for us. So I'll be like, sorry, buddy, this one has soybean oil in it. You know what that you don't want to walk around like a little girl, do you?
Oh
I
my
just joke around with
gosh.
him like that, like because he knows about estrogen and all this
Yep.
stuff. Like my son can have some pretty high level nutritional conversations. Um, and yeah, so that's
I think that's great that your kids are involved in doing that. And boy, we need to be educating our children on this stuff because, as you guys, very well know, I mean, people do not seem to be getting any healthier, and I see that firsthand.
No.
And
Yeah.
so that's cool that you're educating the kids. And a lot of people, and my wife and I are guilty of it. Just we eat good, but they just that doesn't carry over to the children. um, it's getting there for us. And I've told my kids, I said, if nothing else, you guys will leave this house knowing
Right.
what's healthy and what's not.
Yeah,
Uh,
because they know what you guys eat.
that's right. And they hear us talk. I mean, they've heard enough, and they know. And my 14-year-old's getting it. I mean, he really is. He's getting pretty educated about it, and he doesn't eat perfect, but he's slowly getting better.
Yeah.
And he knows what's healthy, what's not. My 9-year-old, she's just a carb addict. But
I know. I
hopefully
know.
she'll come around. My 14-year-old, it's interesting. So he's going to be a freshman next year, and so he's enrolled in a health class, and of course they're going to teach him nutrition and stuff. And so
Nice.
he's already saying, he's like, Dad, I'm sure that stuff that they're going to teach is just
Oh yeah.
a bunch of crap. And I'm
Oh,
like,
for sure.
you're probably right, son. I'm like, just from listening to us, you probably know more than that teacher
Yeah.
is going to be saying. So anyways, well, very cool. um so do they ever feel like that they're missing out? I mean, because of their friends are eating Skittles and whatnot. I mean, did they ever feel like that or communicate that to you guys?
So I'm sure they do sometimes. But again, like when we're in situations where it's like a birthday party or other kids, like the other day, for example, at jujitsu, it was one of the kids' birthdays, and the parents brought cupcakes for everyone. They're gonna get a cupcake. I'm not gonna be like, you can't have a cupcake. They can
Yeah.
have a cupcake, so they don't necessarily feel left out. Sometimes they think that they want certain things, but they really do make observations sometimes where they're learning just through experience. So for one of a perfect example is my oldest Desmond, he's 10 years old, and he asked me one day, Mom, I was talking to my friend and he had all this silver stuff in his mouth. What's that? I'm like, cavities. I'm like, cavities, dude. I'm like, can't relate, right? I'm like, that's what happens when you eat a lot of sugar all day. You are, and you're eating high carb all day. You're gonna get cavities, which Desmond actually healed a cavity over 6 months when he first went low carb, which is wild. But so I mean, they do. Would you say like they feel left out? I mean, we let them do stuff.
Yeah, we
So
do let them do stuff. I think a lot of the what we do is setting them up for success. So like if we go to a party, we feed them first. So there we're gonna give them a bunch of meat before they get to the party. So there's not that much room for other stuff. And we don't prompt them from the party, but if I see my little one like that those Twinkies, that came with 10 Twinkies. My youngest ate five of
oh
those
yeah, in like one
and the
sitting.
oldest ate three.
Oh wow.
And the other two were my neighbor crushed them. And that was like all in one sitting. And that was that, and then they washed their hands of it. And, but I don't think that they get to, they would use that as a weapon. Because they know already they're at the point where they can psychologically manipulate a little bit. And they would be like, well, come on, we're not, so I don't think they feel left out. The thing is with my children is that they are so different in so many ways that it's like
They're used to
the
it.
nutrition, yeah, is just one of many ways,
Yeah.
because they deal with it from homeschool. If kids aren't being nice to them, around the block or something, they'll be like, "Oh, you're homeschooled, or you're dumb," or something like that. And so they're used to defending their lifestyle,
Yeah.
and I think that's important. And we are very big on, making sure that they're confident and giving them responsibility and education so that they walk in confidence. And so, like, if someone says, you know, oh, you eat dumb or something like that, he'll just be like, it's like my oldest said it. He's like, if someone calls me a pencil, I'm not a pencil.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm
Right.
not
They're
that.
just
So it's
words.
like, okay, you're dumb. Like that's not, it's not applicable. So, um,
Yeah, I think the most important thing too is just getting them involved and making sure that they have a say, right? So when we're like planning our weekly
oh
meals,
yeah,
since we're so busy, we sit down on Sunday and we plan our meals, because if not, nobody's
it's a
eating.
disaster.
We don't
Yeah.
even know what's happening, right? Like it's a disaster. So we'll ask them, what kind of things are you wanting for lunch this week? What do you want to eat for lunch? Or so getting them involved so that they feel like, they have somewhat of control over what it is that they're eating too. Like they get to choose. Um, and
We curate the choices though, so that that goes back to like setting them up for success.
I just feel like at this point though, there's so many good products now. Even from when I had Desmond 10
Yeah.
years ago, there was no paleo products. I had to home make everything from scratch. There are so many things now that it's easy. If if they want mac and cheese, I'm like, okay, you want mac and cheese today? Cool. I'll get you gluten-free mac and cheese. Or if you want pizza,
Siete
awesome.
tortillas.
Yeah, I'll get you a cauliflower pizza, and they love it. And then, yeah, quesadillas. We do the siete tortillas. So there's so many different options now that it's, pancakes. They do paleo
Birch benders.
pancakes,
Yeah.
birch benders. Yeah. So,
Yeah. I think it's important for parents to know who are listening to this, because I've had this conversation a lot with parents as a family doctor who sees a lot of kids, because these parents will say, well, I have to feed them, you know, chicken nuggets or whatever, because they won't eat anything else. Like if we'll make dinner and the kids won't eat it. So I have to cater to them and give them mac and cheese or whatever.
right.
And so I tell the parents, because a lot of people think that the kids have to eat. And
Yes,
I'm like,
exactly. Nothing's
they
going to happen. They're not going to starve.
they don't have to eat. Like, they're not going to die. They're not going to starve to death. And if they get hungry enough, they'll eat.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
Good on you. That's a
yeah,
That's
good
so
doctor
good.
right
That's
there.
such good advice because that is so true. Parents think that their kids, I'm like, we are have the most
We're
fed
so overfed.
in this
that's right.
country. We are so overfed. Nothing is going to happen to your child. And it's actually a good thing for them to feel that hunger.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. I won't push the kids to eat if they say they're not hungry. I don't really push it. Like if they're in the middle of playing, I'm like, oh, fine, they'll probably pig out. They'll probably eat a bunch
Yeah.
later, and they always do that. So, and we always think that they're not eating enough, but especially when they're little. I mean, how much? Think about, like Danny will be like, even with Dean, sometimes he'll forget. He's like, he hasn't eaten enough meat. I'm like, how much meat does he need? He's only 50 pounds. Do the math.
He's eating like 80 grams of
Probably,
protein
yeah, like
already.
he's probably eating 80 grams of protein, had 2 eggs, 3 slices of bacon, like a burger. He's good. Like I'm sure he's fine. So yeah, we think that they need more than they do too. It's like if they ate a good amount of protein, fat, and everything else, whatever, it's fine.
And that goes with meal times. I mean, you mentioned that, which kind of stinks because we don't eat as a family for dinner too often, because we're
I
always
would
so.
like to. I would
I
like
would
to
like
sit
to eat
there.
more for sure.
We're so
But
busy.
she's busy at night with her business. She does a lot of stuff at night, and then so most of the time I'm cooking them food, and then I'm sitting down with them, eating with them, or yeah, or they're eating and then we're eating after. But I think it's important for them to have a close relationship with their hunger signals versus being like Pavlovian dogs, where they just think the
Yeah,
lunch
lunch,
bell is
breakfast
time to
time.
eat lunch and breakfast, just because it's 9, 12, and 5 or whatever times we've designated for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Well, let me get into some of the things that's on your website a little bit, just to kind of get to know you guys a little bit more. So, you kind of have a list of your philosophy, and I'm assuming this is probably a lot of the things that you talk about on your own podcast. But one of those is education, and y'all kind of alluded to that a minute ago that you homeschool. So, just kind of tell us a little bit about what you guys do, and how you went about deciding to homeschool.
Yes,
Go ahead.
take that. You got to take
Okay,
that.
fine.
That's because
I'll
that.
kind of say why we started, and you can go into like, I guess what we're doing now.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
Mhm.
Um, I never honestly thought I was going to homeschool. I was that mom who wished I could be that mom. Like I just didn't think. I don't know. I don't know what it was. I didn't think I had enough patience. I don't think I still don't think I have the
And
patience.
expertise. You probably thought you didn't have the expertise because you
Right.
thought.
I wasn't educated at the time. But once when I was pregnant with my first, I knew that I didn't want them to go to traditional public school. I knew that I didn't want to go that route. I went to public school. Danny went to a private school. You went to all the schools.
Yeah, I
You
went to public school until
You
like.
have like all the experiences though, because went to like a public school that's like not that great, and then a private school like Ivy League, like all this stuff, and so, um, but anyways, around the time Desmond was maybe 2 years old, people started to ask me when he was going to go to school, which I honestly thought it was a little strange because he's 2 years old, and I'm like, he's two, I feel like we've made it like just earlier and earlier and earlier, where we start the kids off. And so I visited a few Montessori schools. I was really liking the way that they, like the way that they view education.
And you read the book, right?
And I read the book, and then it was so expensive. I went, looking around, and I was like, I could probably do this, on my own. I could probably do this at home. It's nothing that they're doing here is that outrageous. And then again, as a 2 or 3 year old, there's so much that they need to learn. They need to learn how to feed themselves. They need to learn good character and just how to be little humans. And that's kind of how it started. And then once you get used to it, I feel like it was never even an option after a certain point.
Yeah.
But why don't you, I guess, go a little deeper?
So we went on this journey like we do with everything because we have found each other somehow in this world of people. We found each other,
Bunch of
and
weirdos.
yeah, we're very very similar in the way that we find something and then we just dive right in and we read every book there is to know, and then we end up contacting like thought leaders in that whatever that is, and we make friends with them, and then find ourselves hosting podcasts with them and things like that. And it's just how we are because we're obsessive. And when it comes to education, we first started to learn about, the origins of compulsory education. So we read a lot of, like, we read Murray Rothbard. He wrote a really good book, and we read John Taylor Gatto, who was New York City and New York State Teacher of the Year. and he wrote Weapons of Mass
Instruction.
Instruction, and he wrote Dumbing Us Down. And he wrote a when he quit his job publicly on Wall Street Journal, like he wrote an article to the Wall Street Journal saying like, I quit, I think. And he talked about how when you have like a bucket full of fleas, and they're going to want to all jump out, but if you cover the bucket for a while, and then you remove the cover, the fleas stop wanting to jump out, so they become docile. And he felt like he was that person who was putting that top on the bucket. And he talked about, it's this whole compulsory education thing is only like 100, 150 years old. And so we learned about that. We learned about how learning is natural, and how, I think we make a lot of decisions out of fear, because we think that we want the best for our children. And even like the traditional college route, we're bringing that into question as well, unless it's
A thing.
doctor,
Yeah,
lawyer,
doctor.
engineer.
Right.
And so we've just been able to prove to ourselves in so many different ways that we could start businesses. Like, I was the sole breadwinner, making very good money as a medical device rep. I quit my job, and the year before I quit, I made very good money. And here we are 2.5 years later, almost three in August, and we're doing great. And I think that's a great example for them, to show them that you only have one life. And we spend, as far as a philosophy, like, we spend like 80% of our time doing what they love. So whatever that passion is, we're just going to really observe them, and we're going to just throw all of the resources behind that. We're also very blessed to have here locally something called Urban Cottage, which, I mean, good
It
luck.
doesn't
It's just
exist.
it's hard to find. Yeah. The teacher only, there's never more than 5 people in a class, and each child has like their own kind of plan that they're going on. And
Probably like considered private tutoring, but
yeah,
it's like but us in like a more school-ish setting.
yeah,
Probably like a Montessori, but more advanced, because she's highly qualified, and it's very right. It's very tailored to them. Like
yeah.
they have their own.
But
We're lucky. We're very. I don't know how we find these things.
look,
Yeah,
I think with what we do, I'm not gonna lie, it's hard.
it's hard.
It's more involved. You have to observe more. But I can tell you, I feel like we know our children so well, and it's worth it. And as far as like, I understand that both parents working, and that's a thing. It's important, and so it may not be for everybody. But if you just entertain the idea, because a lot of this is a lifestyle choice. And so the lifestyle that we've chosen is putting a lot of emphasis on that. And for that reason, we don't have fancy cars, we don't really buy ourselves clothes or anything like that. But our children are getting the best thing. So that's kind of it. I
Yeah.
think we
No, I think
covered
it's
it.
great, and we could, I'm sure have a whole podcast on just
Oh
this
yeah.
this topic.
Yeah,
And specifically talking about the, some of the downfalls of public education, and
yeah,
my kids are in public schools, but I mean, it definitely has some downsides, and my wife and I have talked a lot. I wish that, not that there's anything wrong with academics, but academics is just pushed so hard, and then we miss out on
Yeah.
finding the kids' passion and teaching creativity and teaching,
yeah.
grit. I preach grit a lot to my kids,
Yes,
Oh,
grit.
yes, yes.
and so I just think we miss out on a lot of that, and so much emphasis is placed on, doing well on the standardized test. And
Yep.
so anyway, that's cool
Absolutely.
that you guys are able to do that. And yeah, that's awesome. So I want to kind of skip to, we talked about nutrition. Obviously, y'all are called the fat fueled family, so we kind of know how you think about nutrition. I want to skip to the fitness, because like I mentioned earlier, you guys are both in really good shape. And so I'm just curious to know specifically, what y'all do other than the nutrition side of it, but from an exercise standpoint, what do you guys do to look like that?
We're very different with the way we train, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah,
actually don't train together. People think that we work out together.
Okay.
We don't.
yeah.
I like to go in my little zone.
She needs her alone
It's my
time.
outlet. Yeah, that's my therapy for
Gotcha.
sure. So, which is why it's probably easy for me to stay fit, because I go to the gym mostly for my mental health, but of course it's fun. It's nice. I was a dancer, so I've always been fit. But I was that person who I was that girl who was scared of weights for a really really long time. So I first started off just like going to the gym. I was a cardio bunny, and then when I was with when Danny and I first got together, and then we had Desmond. Um, we did CrossFit, and I'm so grateful for CrossFit
Yeah.
because it really took me out of that, and I got so strong. That's where I put on a really good amount of muscle. A lot of the muscle that I have now, even I put on while I did CrossFit, and it just taught me so much about just lifting and the importance of being strong. But it is rough. So I didn't feel like I was kind of like just sick of like I guess dying every day. I was like, I don't want to
But
just
also
die all the time.
you
And I
wanted
was
to specifically build muscles,
right. And then I
specific
was just
muscles.
like, yeah. So and then when we moved, another thing too is like when we moved, the CrossFit gym that, a lot of CrossFit gyms are very, very small. And like the one that we went to was small and very like a family.
Yep.
So my babies could be there running around, like everybody would watch my baby. And when we moved to Tampa, Dean was only 2 months old. And I just didn't feel comfortable going to, a CrossFit gym. I didn't know anybody here. So I started bodybuilding, and I just found a love for it too, just a passion for just going to the gym, going back into my zone, having my headphones, and then bodybuilding. It's just I love to lift weights. So that's what I mean. That's what I do now. I do a lot of lifting. It's mostly bodybuilding type workouts. Danny's the cardio guy.
Well, she lifts like 5 days a week, sometimes six.
I love it.
If she can, she would lift every day, but we don't have time
I
on the
could really lift
weekends.
them every day.
Yeah.
You're just kidding.
I love to lift. Historically, I've been all about performance. So, always have trained like an athlete, sprinting, lifting heavy, lifting fast when needed, efficiency. And then I met my good friend Ben, who was like a top, world ranked bodybuilder. And,
Yeah.
and in my opinion, as far as like a coach for building muscle, he's the best in the world. Ben Pekulski, he's just very very smart, and he understands how to teach people and how to assess people and show them how to get the best muscle contractions. And so I basically I learned how to build muscle specifically in my 30s, when I was like I had built so much muscle. But like, what I learned from him has saved me. As a 40-year-old, I know that 40 is not old, but my training age, like I was lifting weights when I was 13. I had a really good coach that was like a Marine, and he put me on a meal plan, and I was eating perfectly, and I was lifting, and I was, my athletic director had given me the keys to the gym so I could go work out before school. So I was always dedicated. But as we get older, he says when you're young, you train with your nether region, and when you're older, you
Yeah.
train with your brains.
Yeah.
And that has really helped me, because as I've learned how to properly execute lifts, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Like we've found several lifts that work very very well, and we just go there and we just spend time there. And ever since that, I've been able to handle this. Of course, there's been a drop in volume for me because I've gotten older, and things are just not the same. My strength is not the same as it was in my 30s. I've been able to maintain my muscle. I lift 4 days a week. I love to do full body lifting, so I don't do the whole body, but I only go periods of time. Like I went like on a 3 or 4 month period there with a training partner who was doing body part splits. But I love full body lifting because,
Yeah.
God forbid, something happens, I don't get a lift in. I know that I hit everything. And
Full
so
body's the best.
yeah, so I'm basically doing a little bit of legs every day, and then a little bit of upper body every day. I do a lot of cardio based activity just because that's kind of like my outlet. So I've been doing uh, historically a lot of rowing, and I competed in indoor rowing, and now this year I did a 40-mile hike for my 40th birthday, which was awesome. And now we're this weekend doing a 48-hour challenge where every 4 hours we got to run 4 miles, and it's
Is Tom Shea doing this?
yeah,
I saw him post about it.
yeah, it's like a mindset challenge. I actually was talking with him. This is Tom Shea's a Navy SEAL. He wrote Three Simple Things and Unbreakable. two books that I highly recommend
Yes,
to
so good.
anybody. That's like on the Christmas list for this year. Like that's what we're gonna give a bunch of people. These books
Oh, I
are
love that.
unbelievable. And just I think it's important for everyone to have a cardio base because that will help you to push the volume with the lifts. But it's also important for for your cardio metabolic health, all that stuff, and getting a little bit more specific with the cardio side of things is I'm a big fan of maximum aerobic function training. So Phil Maffetone, MAF training. It's basically something I learned in the Primal Endurance book by Brad Kearns and Mark Sisson, talking about how your typical weekend warrior slash working person is spending 50% of the time in what he calls the black hole, which is the space between your maximum aerobic heart rate and your anaerobic threshold. So your maximum aerobic heart rate is 180 minus your age. So that's me between 140 and whatever my anaerobic threshold would be. A lot of us spend way too much time there, and that hurts our recovery, and that also affects the type of our fuel preference. And so, if we are able to spend 80 to 90%, like elite athletes do, elite runners, elite triathletes, they spend 80 to 90% in the aerobic zone, and they work on getting faster while maintaining an aerobic metabolism. And then you spend that other 10 to 20% doing anything faster, whether it be high intensity stuff or tempo stuff. You'll see that it takes longer, but you're going to be burning fat more and you're going to be teaching your body how to burn fat more. So it's not as stressful, especially if you don't have carbs in your system. That's another thing that's very important is we match our training to our diet. And one thing that I find that some people who are doing a ketogenic diet might run into is that they they eat a certain way, but then they're training the way they've always trained. So they do like supersets and very short rest on their workouts. And that may be fine for some. I know that, for example, my friend Robert, genetically, we had our buddy Anthony, who's a big epigeneticist. He read our DNA, and he's very built for aerobic stuff. And
Oh yeah.
he can train even like in a pretty glycolytic way. What?
No, I'm saying
Oh,
you're
you
built for
look.
that.
Oh yeah, I'm built for
I feel like
anaerobic
you're
stuff.
built for that too.
Yeah, I'm
Like
built for.
long distance stuff.
Well, I
But
think I've trained that because
oh, okay, because
my
you're
genetics didn't say that.
sprinter. Yeah.
Sprinting, yeah. And so he won't feel that stress of training that way, and I feel like I do. And so if you're training that way in a glycolytic fashion very often, and you're not eating the carbs, then you could see like your cortisol start to really come up and stay elevated. And then you're not burning fat, your sleep's affected,
Right.
you're not putting on muscle. So either increase the rest periods or tone down the intensity, and you'll get better results. And people are like, wow, I took a week off and I feel so much better. And all of a sudden, so that's just things that people have to just pay attention to their bio individuality.
Yeah. So it sounds like you, as far as weights are concerned, you do a lot of functional movements,
Yeah.
what like power cleans,
I
snatches,
we
that kind of stuff.
No, you're doing like bodybuilding stuff now.
Yeah, I'm doing like, well,
Like
so
rows.
yeah, I don't do like the cleans and snatches anymore. I still do deadlift, squat,
Gotcha.
bench, but I haven't I touched the
But you
bench
also do
today.
like
Oh
shoulders,
yeah, I do body
back.
part
Yeah. Yeah.
but I break it into like overhead pressing, overhead
Right,
pulling,
right, right, right.
horizontal pressing, horizontal pulling. So they're movement based as far as like the structure of the program, but those movements will definitely target specific muscle groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done CrossFit a lot in the past. I've been off and on, gosh, for years. I'm off right now, but I'm a little older than you guys, so you're right. More CrossFit is just really hard on you,
It is.
and
It's hard
so
on
I'm
me. I was
just
like sore all the time.
oh, I know, and I'm just kind of doing more standard lifting now. One thing I do like about CrossFit is it does force me to get out of my comfort zone,
Yes.
and it makes me do the power cleans and stuff that I won't do, just on my own. So anyways, I'll probably end up going back to it. But
Oh yeah, I love CrossFit.
yeah,
CrossFit taught me so much.
yeah, yeah,
I think there have to be parameters
We
like you
went. We
shouldn't
were
do
we were very lucky to go to a really great gym
strength focused.
where the
yeah,
programming was strength focused. They weren't just trying to, cater to the clients who really don't they just want to go in there and die basically. Like
Yeah,
they don't
yeah.
know
It's
what
like
they
if they don't
need.
get killed, they're not
Yeah, like
getting
if
their
they
money's
don't
worth.
die, then they
Right, right.
don't feel like they got to work out, right? But it's not the smartest all the time. So yeah, yeah. Like we went to a really solid gym, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool. All right. Anything I didn't ask you all that you want to just kind of throw out there about what all you guys do and
I think the biggest thing is with the kids is like, you know,
Oh, I have something that I wanted to say actually that I wrote there. But go
well,
finish.
I'll just say, make it a journey, like it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be all right now. And,
Right.
when there are wins, definitely show them that you're noticing, like, hey, good job there, man. I see you, I see you ordered that burger without the bun. That's good, like, and if you have young kids like us, be wary of them hiding things because they want to please you. Because that happened to us a few years back, where our youngest, we caught him under the dining table at a restaurant,
Yeah, we don't ever
sneaking a
want them to
fry, and
feel
we
shame.
were like, dude. Like we
You can have
waited till we got in the
fries.
car. Like, buddy, don't ever feel like you can't have a French fry, man. Like, please,
Yeah, yeah.
like we didn't like that, and so we had to have like a
Loosen up.
conversation.
We
Yeah,
had to loosen up after that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, because you don't want to create that shame or again like an obsession, which is the opposite of what I want, right?
yeah,
So leading with that education, allowing them to make their own choices and allowing them to make those mistakes without the shame and just we have a saying in our home, winners don't lose, they learn. So okay, you got a stomach ache. What am I? It's happened to my oldest several times, but it's not, you don't need to feel bad about it. Just what did you learn? Now, well, how can you apply this next time? Like maybe the next time you go to a birthday party, maybe don't have cotton candy, orange Fanta, and pizza in the first 5 minutes. Maybe pace yourself. The last point that I did want to make, because I think it's so important when it comes to kids, and we do this so naturally because we're used to this type of behavior. Because I know for me, I was raised this way, and a lot of us are, is to really, really focus and try to never reward them or comfort them
oh yeah,
with food. And I've caught myself where maybe my son was sad about something and, his best friend moved away. Like my first thought was like, oh, let's go get ice cream. But what am I truly creating there, right? Like, well, I'm starting to create these emotional eating patterns that down the line are not going to be healthy. So I try to not reward or comfort my boys with food. I just wanted to say that because it's
yeah.
just something that we do without even thinking about it sometimes because we're so used to it and everything is like a celebration is always food. So I just wanted to point that out.
very good. So I always end my podcast by asking my guests to give us one health tip that can make us healthier today. And you guys can both have a stab at this if you want. It can be something different. What would you guys say?
I don't mind.
Okay, go.
Morning routine.
Ooh, man,
Establish
I
a
was there.
solid morning routine. Wake up earlier, do your meditation, your maybe a little bit of movement, stretching, whatever, and plan your day. And I'm telling you, in a perfect world, train in the morning because then you win the day before it's begun. That's been a big difference maker
Yeah,
for
I'm
me.
gonna have to agree. My head was going there too, because it also helps manage stress. We were talking about stress this morning on a clubhouse, and some of the stresses we create are self-imposed because of lack of planning. We feel like we're drifting all day, and we're working all day. We didn't get anything done. So, you know, have a solid morning routine. Don't start your day with scrolling. It's really hard. You'll catch yourself doing it, but you got to get your mindset right to, our world is designed to stress us out. So, get your day in order, have a solid morning routine, drink water the first thing you do when you wake up. I know it's so simple, but drink water. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised how
Yeah.
little water some of us drink. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, great advice. I actually, with me starting at a new clinic recently, I just switched to doing my workouts in the morning, and I'm doing them in a fasted state. And usually I just do
yeah.
weightlifting, and I think you get some growth hormone benefit and other benefits
Yeah.
from that
Yes.
as well. But I really like it, and so I think I'm going to just continue that and adjust my schedule to keep working out in the morning. I really like it. Feel good. You're right. It's
Yeah,
just
it
a good way to
energizes
start
you.
your day. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, well, very good. Well, appreciate you guys and just what you do and getting the message of health out there. I always like visiting with people who are just like minded and passionate about making people healthy. And so appreciate that. And you guys sharing just your story. Let's see. People can find you at fatfueledfamily.com. Is that correct?
Fatfueled.family.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
The .com was
Fatfueled.family.
taken.
Yeah, the
Yes.
dot. We wish it wasn't taken.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've got fatfield.family. They can pretty much find most of our stuff there, even all of our social media. I'm Fatfield Mom. You can find Danny Vega.ms on Instagram.
It's got
TikTok,
links to our
whatever,
podcast.
all the platforms.
Yeah.
And the name of the podcast is Fat Fueled Family. Is that correct?
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. Well, perfect. Well, thank you guys for your time, and appreciate you guys listening. And we will talk to you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.